Breaking news tonight from the NBA, and it's not good news for the LA Clippers. Chris Paul suffered a torn ligament in his left thumb last night, which will require surgery. He's expected to be out 6 to 8 weeks, and for a franchise that is seemingly cursed when it comes to injuries over the last few years between Paul and Blake Griffin, who's also currently out. Remember, Paul played just 4 games in the postseason last year because of a hand injury. Now it's the thumb. Should bring him back before the end of the regular season. But in the West, where they're sitting 4th right now, who knows how many games they lose in the meantime? It's just one thing after another with this team.
Well, you fall to 7th or 8th, you're playing, the Golden State. If you're 8, if you're 7, you're playing the Houston Rockets or maybe the Spurs. It's hard to get out of that. And this is the one guy they can't play without. They can play with without a lot of other guys. Without Chris Paul, they are not even close to the same team. He does so much for that team, and what a devastating injury for the Clippers.
And you got to look ahead also, Greg. As you know, Paul, Griffin, J.J. Redick, all either will be or can be free agents this summer. If the Clippers fall to, say, 7th or 8th, and we're getting way ahead of ourselves here, and have a quick out in the postseason, you really have to start thinking about a reset there.
Yeah, I think right now, obviously, they're not thinking that way. There's a lot of frustration and disappointment. And knowing Doc Rivers, they're going to feel like they can still rally. Listen, we didn't necessarily think they'd be winning this well, playing this well without Blake Griffin either. So they do have a lot of talent and experience on that roster. I think they can still be competitive. But what it does from a continuity standpoint, that's where you miss out. You don't get the growth with your team that you could have if those two guys were on the roster. But listen, it's a huge blow for them. Little picture in terms of right now, big picture, potential free agency, and you hate to see it because I really felt like coming into the season that the Clippers would have a legit chance if they got a good break or two, and unfortunately they've got nothing but bad breaks here with their roster.
I thought this was their year. I'm sorry, Matt. I thought this was their year to either really make a run, get to the conference finals, maybe get to the NBA finals, or blow it up. And I haven't changed my thinking on that.
Well, what do you say to your team when something like this happens? They know the deal. They know what they've been through the last few years. They know how important Chris Paul is to them. As a head coach, you got to walk in there and say something. Yeah,
you say, hey, fellas, look, a lot of you guys have been wanting to play. Because believe me, every coach hears so much grousing about, I'm not playing enough, I'm not playing enough. You're going to get your chance.
I find that hard to believe.
Yeah, it's shocking. But, you're going to get your chance now. What are you going to do? Who's going to rally this team? Who's going to be our leader? Who's going to step up? And you really challenge the guys. And you know what? They'll be okay for a while. I think guys will step up. But over the long term, in the long haul, you can't replace a Chris Paul.
Tough 6 to 8 weeks for Chris Paul. We'll see how the Clippers respond. Sitting 4th, make a note of that.